Here we are. I've got on the call with us Hawkeye J. Zipperman, and today we're talking about uh, rites of passage and youth mentorship. And Hawkeye is the founder and director of the Mountain Wisdom Inc. Is it Mountain Wisdom School or
This Mountain Wisdom Inc. is the nonprofit, and it's a Mountain Wisdom Camp.
Mountain Wisdom Camp? And they do programs with uh, young men and women, I believe, and they're based in Ellijay, Georgia. Hawkeye is also one of the co-founders of Kingmakers group, which helps as a team of men from all over North America who are committed to mentoring young men in uh, rites of passage work, mentorship, and helping them launch into the world in meaningful ways. So, and then I myself, Jamie Eggleston, I'm here to learn more about rites of passage work, youth mentorship, and I'm grateful to have you here, Hawkeye. Thank you for this conversation. So,
Thank you,
perhaps
Jamie. Thanks for having me here, and it's great to be here with you on this. It's important work.
Absolutely, yeah. Could you just share a little bit about Mountain Wisdom Camp, how you got involved with it, a bit about what you all do over there?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. After working with adult men for many years, doing what we call men's work, and seeing just, divorces after divorces, seeing a lot of abusive relationships and rage and just not very productive, healthy families. I decided that I thought it would be, a good idea to start working with the younger men, and maybe we could avoid some of these serious issues that do come up that a lot of men have. And really, when I first got this whole idea and the passion for it, and I was definitely, my spirit was moved. I was doing my first vision quest about 30 years ago, and so that's a vision quest where I was fasting on a mountain in one spot for 4 days, 4 nights, with very little water, no food. And that's the vision I got, the importance of what this could be and the lack of it in our society today. And I just, after a short time after that, I really did more investigating and research, and really could not find this whole idea of rites of passage in today's society. I mean, I found little snippets of it here or there, but not really very much. And this was, like I said, probably 28 years ago by the time I was really looking at starting to develop a rite of passage.
Yeah, beautiful. I've gone out on the land a couple times myself to vision quest and or sit out, depending on what people call it.
Right.
And I've had similar experiences of just being able to drop in and connect with from a different perspective what we're doing here as individuals and part of community. And maybe you can expand a little bit more on that structure. I know you talked a little bit about, for yourself, that vision quest is part of it is taking some space away from community. to go into an experience and come back. And I'm guessing with the programs you do with youth, though maybe not in that form of going out on the land and fasting or whatnot, but there's a process going on there. Could you share just a little bit about what
Sure.
that structure is?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We talk about initiation and rites of passage. So, so an initiation would be like part of typically a rites of passage. And of course, rites of passage has been done on this planet and all over the planet in so many indigenous cultures and really every part of the planet for thousands of years. So it's looked so many different ways for all these years, but the general format of it is they're around 12 years old, right at adolescence there, and moving through that. The uncles, the dad and the uncles, we'll call them, the men would come and take the young man away from the women, because up to that time, the young men were still kind of hanging out with the women folk. And, that's where they were most of the time. So doing those kind of things, whatever that was, it was more around the village, so to speak, in the home. And so the men would come, this would be planned, it's, an organized type of event, even, thousands of years ago. Very intentional. And so, at this certain time, men would come and literally just drag the boy away from the women. And they would take him and put him through some form of ordeal. And that ordeal and experience, it would be some form of challenge, some form of isolation, some form of walkabout, whatever culture where there was at the time and in that part of the planet. And you go through that, and sometimes it'd be, it would always be very challenging, transformational. It could be you may not live through it even, it was pretty severe. But it just depends, it wasn't always that way, but some cultures very severe, and then some, maybe not as much. So the whole spectrum of how intense it might be, but still you're going through that. And then, assuming you get through that, and then you're brought back to the village, we'll call it, the community, and there would be some form of ceremony at that time, and you're then brought back into the community, back to the family, given back to the father, the mother, the siblings, that way. And so you have the separation, you have the ordeal, challenge, and then you have the reuniting back into the community as a young man at that point. Doesn't mean you're an adult man, but you are a young man with more responsibilities, more respect, so to speak, those type of things. Yeah, so there's a lot to it. It means a lot.
So yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot to it, and of course, could go very deep into that structure. Something I'm thinking about too is how rites of passage these days, from my understanding of it, right, an initiation is in preparing a younger person to be a responsible and thriving adult in their community. So our communities these days might look a lot different than in older times. And so I just see that as modifiable to our modern days. And one thing I'm thinking about is you said around that age of 12 or so, and we're speaking about young men. What are some signs that we might see in today's times that uh, a young man is just about ready uh, to go to a weekend of, Mountain Wisdom Camp or some of the other programs that are going on around the country?
Well, what typically happens is the young man is getting, he's being, there could be misbehaving, because he is bucking up against the parents, usually the dad, the mom too, and, being disagreeable or, at that age, most young men and women, girls too, are, they're trying to find their independence and be their own person and that type of thing. And that's why at that time, it is a good time to acknowledge them, start giving them some more respect, not treating them like a little boy anymore. And because that's what he's wanting. He's wanting to be more accepted. He's wanting to be acknowledged, as a young man. He's ready to, come out and, be face the world, so to speak. Typically, our young people are so sheltered, and that's what happens so much with parents today, that our kids, because of the society and all that we do. I feel, do a lot of maybe overprotecting because of the way the society is. So they get overprotected. We don't want them to be, you can't just go out, ride your bike down the road or go too far or, these kind of things, because, there's a lot of fear out there, and that's projected so often onto the young men. And so they feel a lot of that, but that's by creating. So I have spent, along with my team and of men, just incredible staff, over 20 years now, so 21, 22 years, developing a rites of passage, what we call a camp, because it's a week-long experience. And it's for 12 to 17-year-olds. That's the age. Sometimes we take 11 and a half, and sometimes it's even 18 too, because it's age isn't exactly always defining. And we created a program. Of course, it's developed tremendously over the last 22 years, because we have to keep kind of meeting the young men where they are, as things have changed over these years, just like we've done it for thousands of years. So that's what we've continued to do. And, our program is set up where we try to find that balance of fun, safeties first, and then fun. And within that is, the experience, it's all about, the trust building, confidence building, team building, leadership training, so they're getting skills, you're developing skills that may not have ever really gotten. And we do that through a lot of the activities that we're doing. Like we set up a full challenge course, so a lot happens through that, overcoming fears, the team building, skills, primitive skills, to where you're really creating a lot of self-reliance and confidence through these kind of things. And, so it's not so important of what these activities are, but what the results of these activities are and what their growth and transformation they're getting. And one of the things that I'm real big about is self-awareness. That's what is so important for I believe, all of us, young people, adults, is know thyself, is, creating opportunities, creating exercises and processes for us to know ourselves. And when we have a little bit more understanding around that, then we've got some tools and a little more to work with there, to really, be more present in the world.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. That explanation of just a little bit of what goes on. And something that stood out to me too was how you emphasized safety and fun. And, because sometimes somebody hears rite of passage and there's this awareness, there's some level of perhaps risk involved. What is it that takes the change that really helps to bring somebody into to know themselves better? And something that I've heard before is this difference between actual risk and perceived risk. One of the activities I've done in the past, both with adults and youth, is just making something, even just putting a blindfold on them. Okay, now I don't have my awareness, but I'm safe on the ground. But is there anything that you want to add to on that, of just that fine line that we're walking, we're challenging somebody, giving an opportunity to step into these new parts of themselves?
Sure. Yeah, there's several things that come up for me around that, these different levels: physical, emotional, spatial, risk. And so that is what we create a safe container at our camp that that's where the trust comes in. So let's speak, we'll start with physical, so absolutely, the safety, everything we do, we're creating, fun, risk-taking obstacles and challenges. And, because that's what young men want. That's what they, sometimes do out in the world, where they're doing some crazy stuff. We all did, man. I know I have, and I still do,
Yeah.
but what we create there is, so when we create this high traverse, 12, 15 foot in the air, where they have to walk across, and, you have a high line and a lower line, they're walking across, and they may not ever been that high with just nothing around them, but they have a saddle, they have a helmet, and they're on belay, which means they're on a rope with a man below. So if they fall, they come off there, but they're still, that's still to walk all the way 40 feet across this, I call it a high traverse. That can really, some is not as challenging, but others, that can be really scary. But once they do it, then you're overcoming some fears and all that. And you're trusting us, you're trusting the man that's got you on belay. So that would be maybe an example of some physical. But just even walking into this camp at all, typically, they really don't know. They know they're not just coming to Boy Scout camp. They know it's something more to it than that. And right off the bat, with our opening ceremonies, we create some somewhat pretty intense situations, like dropping their mask, so and what, we have them speak to that. What mask would they be dropping? What mask are they wearing that they would drop for this week-long camp? That so they'll be more vulnerable and be willing to be more themselves, because that's what we're looking for there. Practicing really who we are there. So that would be, so right off the bat, okay, this is something a little more to it. And it takes, where you're having to be more vulnerable. And vulnerability is something I feel like it's just real important to practice, and, and being that with people that you feel safe with. So we create that safe space to confidentiality is a part of, we speak of right off the beginning. What happens here, what's said here, stays here. So if you setting that container is so important to create this type of rites of passage initiation event. So that's some of the the emotional part of it there, the physical, emotional. Yeah, I'm in with that for a minute. We can carry on with that, but yeah, there's lots of around the safety part of it is so important.
Yeah,
Feeling
yeah,
safe.
it's huge. Right. In my experience, when I've uh, gone on experiences, safety, at least I'll say trust. If I can have that trust with the people I'm around, then that allows me uh, to take more risks. And maybe those are just emotional risks of taking the mask off and realizing that, oh, everybody else is feeling the same things that I am.
Mm.
I'm really not unique in that way. And that's a huge moment.
Definitely. You don't feel
Yeah.
like you're the lone dog. You hear some of the same similar stories. You could probably, on one hand, you can hear a lot of the emotional challenges and the fears that we all carry. And a lot of adult men still carry these things. And that's why the importance of start working on these things, at a younger age. I feel, it's so important that instead of waiting until you're 30, 40 years old to work on some of these things around yourself and doing this work. There's so much more opportunity for greatness and really achieving success and happiness in their lives. That's some of the reasons for doing this work, having this type of experiences when they're young.
Yeah, I know that in the book I'm reading currently, The Boy Crisis, they uh, talk about helping the boy, the young man, launch into society in a meaningful way, meaningful career, family, or whatever they want.
That's
But
right.
and I see this work being really helpful in developing those emotional skills to get there. And maybe real briefly, if you want, uh, how does this work also? Because I know there's rites of passage for males, females, and everybody, but we're speaking specifically, I think, mostly about young men today. So, how does this work cause the men who show up as mentors to also grow?
Oh gosh, yeah. I always say, and that's what I tell our staff, that everybody's a participant. The priority when we put on a young men's event, the young men are the priority. But I really encourage our staff to be open for their growth as well and their transformation. So the more we're open to that, which we are, so the more we're open to it, then the more the young men are as well. So we have to be vulnerable. We have to be real. You can't be putting on or acting, for these young men. They see it right off the bat that, oh, you're not really being very real with me here. So
Right.
when
Yeah.
when we are real and just being our true self, and it doesn't mean we have it all together or at all. It's fine. We don't have to, because we don't. So we don't want to act like we have it all together. We are there. We are facilitators. We're mentors. Um, there might be two men that are facilitating a certain exercise or something, but the other staff and the young men, they're all participants at that point. Now they're still paying attention, making sure everybody's safe, things are going well. But we have our staff participate in the different activities and the processes as well. So I, as the director, get, I'm sure, just as much or sometimes more from these experiences as the young men. And young men, I mean, 12, 13 years old, 15, 16. I mean, there's so much to learn from them. So it's very circular. It's not hierarchy. Okay, Hawkeye J is the director of the camp, and then there's Rhodey, as my assistant, and then we have our, it really is circular, like the wheel. There's not really a beginning and an end now, is the way I speak about that. It's, we're there all together and having this, we create this Mountain Wisdom community, or some of the young men that come back, they'll speak of it as their Mountain Wisdom world that they do. And it's so fun, to hear that, because it really is to them, they're a family, it's a community, and that's, we have young men that come back, and then they're peer mentors when they've been there 3 years or so, 4 years. Say they come, they're 12 years old, 13, 14, 15, and they're 16, 17, then they're peer mentors. So they're put with a pack, and so there's a whole peer mentor program. And then you move into staff and training, and then staff. And we have that just works. That whole setup works, really well. And that's that, when I'm talking about that circular, that wheel of how this all just, this peer mentor, mentoring works, with all of us.
Yeah, I hear that. It's service and empowering others to step into their truths, their leadership, and in service of community, perhaps. And speaking of community, maybe we can shift a little bit, Hawkeye, and talk about community and families. And of course, it's important to build trust with the young men, but also building trust with the communities, with families, the caregivers. So what is the importance of that, and how does that serve in just the making sure everybody is getting the most out of this?
Well, it starts, so, I'm gonna back up just a little bit, Jamie. How does somebody find us? How do we find them?
Yeah.
They come to us from a warm market. It's somebody that knows somebody. And so this all started, and this is the way rites of passage happens in the village, in community, is we do this for our own kids. We do this for our own nephews. We do this for the immediate village community, and it branches out from there. That's how this happens. So that's really how it happens here for Mountain Wisdom. Is it's our own kids, our own nephews and friends, boys, and it just branches out from there to where somebody that knows somebody finds out about us. Now we have the social media, we have Mountain Wisdom, mountainwisdominc.org as our website, and we've had that many, many years. But most of all our young people that come to us, it's because it's more what I call more of a warm market, that they know somebody, and that's where the trust comes in. So for somebody to come and have this experience, for a parent to come give their young man to us for a week, there's got to be some trust, or accountability, credibility, all that. And that comes from it doesn't happen overnight. It does take being in service. And for me, in my community outside of Mountain Wisdom, I do a lot of community work. I started Keep Gilmer Beautiful here in our county, so I'm very much around environmental issues and family community. So it's about helping healthy families is what I'm about, and that's what I started. I was actually running 2 nonprofits for many, many years. So getting more into your question, so there's got to be the trust there to even come. And then once they come, and we like to finish our week with a graduation celebration, and that's where the parents are invited. Parents, siblings, come, and we have a whole honoring ceremony and for the young men, and that's where we're turning the young men back over to the families. And before I bring the young men in, I spend about 45 minutes to an hour talking with the families about some of what the young men experienced and what they did without, divulging confidentiality, but giving them a broad picture of what our week was a little bit. And then some of what my expectation of them is, how they're going to receive the young men back. And that is giving them a little more space to process their experience they just went through, for one thing, for starters, not asking a lot of questions and grilling them or whatever. But so it's the space, and then like with trying to be, respectful for them in their space, just generally, like their room or whatever, that but at the same time, it's that balance of still kind of turning more responsibility over to them as well. And so it's a balance. It's kind of a fine line. It's not just real clear and defined of how parents and the young man would balance the return. But that is the idea. And typically, they're just, the young men are much more loving. They're much more agreeable, with the family, with their siblings, they're not fighting, at least for the first weeks or, whatever, it's like just, but it does carry on. They're taking on more responsibility without, they're offering to take the garbage out without being forced to, really. It's like these little things, because they see that it is time for them to start taking, I'll just say it real bright, clear, besides their experience, but, I'll say it's time, even at 12 years old, start taking responsibility for your life. You're not blaming your parents or your teacher or anybody else for things that just happened to you in your life. We, don't do a lot of preaching to them or whatever, but because it's mostly experiential is how they do learn and through their experience. But certainly we, introduce some of these, concepts and things, during the experience. So you're really prepping the family to, treating them like a young man now, not a little boy. And that's really hard for mostly a lot of moms that really don't want to cut that cord. They still want to kind of treat their little boy, their little boy like a little boy instead of a young man. And as long as you're still doing that, they will not grow up. There's a lot of men, 50, 60 years old that maybe haven't grown up because they haven't been through their initiations. They haven't been through these types of experiences. And so often the parents are still not really treating them like an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. We don't have to look too far to look out and see certain leaders of our society or public figures that are in adult bodies, but acting in a much more adolescent type of psychology. So yeah, I see that benefit of these types of experiences.
Start young.
Yeah.
That's the importance of that. If you
Yeah.
don't, it's a lot harder later, honestly. When you're 30 and 40, you have so much more you have to overcome. So that's what I find, starting, really young, like this 12, 13, 14 years old, and doing this work. And I've seen it. I'm a witness here. For so many that have, come back to our camps and they come back, and what they're doing in their lives now, they're, in charge of the drum corps, the band here. They're joining the sports team, or, they're leading the clubs at schools. We have so many young men that have come through our camps and have come for, consecutive years, or we do a fall camp as well. So when they come to multiple events where we can have, multiple experiences together, that makes tremendous difference. coming one time and having your rites of passage experience is great, and you're planting the seeds, but multiple events and multiple years, that's where we're seeing just off the chart, young men having tremendous success in their lives. So that's what, that's why I feel that's so important for them to come back again and again. It's really, really good and important. So I'll just make up a couple of points that we haven't
Sure.
really made. One, if you don't have this type of experience, like what we're creating, and so many, there's others around North America and around the world that are doing similar work. It's not near enough. I mean, it's like this much compared to we need, lots more. But they're going to find it somewhere else. That's the whole thing with the gangs and other really hurtful ways of having their rites of passage. Because the young men want to be accepted. They want to feel part of something. Like I say, part of this mountain wisdom community, part of this mountain wisdom world. They love that. They're just like, I'm part of something. I feel part of something. It's another family. But if you don't offer up something healthy like that, they're going to find it somewhere. And that's the gangs are in the street and all that, and that's where the risk-taking behavior, whether it's drugs, alcohol, violence, killing, robbing, that's what's going on with our youth. And because that's all. It's just another way to do it, and we're trying to give them a safe, healthy way to grow and be part of something and transform in that way. That was one point I wanted to make about that.
Yeah, that is a great point to bring up. I appreciate that. You might have some others that you'll recall, but in the meantime, that made me think of how a young man who has been involved in mentorship, these camps or rites of passage, depending on whatever you call them, how does you see that impact their respect towards perhaps themselves or to women or even the environment? I feel that there's some interconnectedness there too.
It is, Jamie. So we have one like creed at our camp, and this is part of our orientation. I will respect myself, others, and my environment at all times. And I just have them, this is really like, we don't have a lot of rules. I mean, this is it. I have them repeat it 3 times where they're hearing it and speaking it. I respect myself, others, and my environment at all times. And I tell them, if you're doing that at this camp, then everything's going to be smooth and be good, And of course, it's not all smooth and good, because you can't. So that means, how they are with how they're speaking to each other, maybe physical space, like getting up and, being respectful for somebody's space, not getting too close, other people's personal gear, they're sharing. We might have 3 young men in a tent together. So, their belongings, so that means a lot right there. So, but if you're being respectful like that, so respect is a big one. And that's what we practice that during the week. This is a training ground for life at our camp. This isn't just, we're going and, sure, we're doing archery and we're throwing hatchets and we're learning how to canoe. We have stand-up paddle boards and all that. We're doing all that stuff. We're learning how to make fire with a bow drill. We're learning primitive skills, shelter building, and, all that. At the same time, it's within all that, it's about respect, myself and others. And if they get that just, a little bit during that week, then, I'm thrilled, because that's so important. And we do a session about respect, so not only are we, as part of the whole week, but we do a session, an hour, 45-minute hour session. And, respect for women comes into that. So we break them up into ages because it, ends up being some sex talk, but it's not a sex talk, but it goes there sometime. But that's not, that's a small part of it. But where that comes in would be how I'm going to respect my own body, like first, being, and then of course somebody else's body, and all of that. So you really can get into that and really help them see a bigger picture rather than just like abstaining from sex or that type of thing, it being a young man, teenager, which is what we want to have happen. So, with their mom, their teachers, any authority figures, because that's what young men do. You're bucking, your parents, even might be the coach, your teacher, that's what you're doing a lot of times in that adolescent age there. And so we're trying to help them, kind of realize that about themselves, to where it's okay, that's a part of me, but how much am I going to let that be a part of me that's going to really get me in a lot of trouble too? Am I going to end up, problems with the law because I'm being so defiant that, yeah, I'm going to be kicked out of school, and then I'm going to be a truancy, and then I'm going to, and it just dominoes from there. So trying to help them, realize that they do have more control over this than they might think. So it's the empowerment of that you do have control. Your choices you make will affect the outcome in your life. And see, that's the empowerment of that. Realizing that is so important, because so many people don't really realize that and take that responsibility on.
Beautiful. Yeah, I feel that the whole community benefits from this, and we're getting close to our time that we've allotted here, but I am curious too, Hawkeye, of just how a point I wanted to make was the parents or the caregivers, whoever is involved in the young man's life, they also go through their own almost rite of passage, you could say too, in that things are no longer necessarily the same as before. And so
Good point.
I just wanted to sort of point that out, but if there's anything you wanted to comment on that as well, feel free.
Well, I think it is about the relationships that we have with the parents. I say parents, it typically is mostly moms, because that's who really handles, well, here's the truth of it. Most of our attendees, our participants, are being raised by single moms or grandmothers. There are some families that are still together, and that's wonderful. But I do believe that is kind of a sampling of our society today. Now, we also might attract more of this as well, like young people, young men that are coming from, two-parent families. Often, this is for everybody, what we're doing. It's not for problem, kids and all that. But we seem to still yet attract a lot of single, I think because a lot of single moms are looking for male, for men, mentors for their help, their assistance often. And that's where we do kind of take a role in that. And it's a very important role. And so, we do develop often relationships with, the mothers, and they're very appreciative and thankful for us and what we're doing, because they can't do what we do, unfortunately. Now, we're not replacing the parent or the father, but we sure are being a support role for the family in that way. Because it's just a week, or it's, a week in the summer and then a weekend in the fall, and maybe, some hikes and a few activities, day trips, during the week. Like in the spring, we often do a river rafting trip and that kind of thing. But but so that's why we're here, because we're in a support role for these families and these moms or grandmoms raising young people. And it's an honor for me just to be in that assistant role, and for us that we're able to serve in that way. And they do, I mean, I guess our website has some testimonials and that kind of thing, but I get emails, I get, verbal, they tell us that, yeah, I mean, just the difference they see, and how much they appreciate us being here and what we're doing. And we're very much in a support role for the family. And so therefore it gives them, tremendous support, the parent, the mom, typically. And they want to be, I mean, I get calls for support, all that, I'm here. That's what we do. That's just part of what I do. And being in a support role, say if something's coming up, during the year, they call, and we talk about it. I'm a good listener, and that's a lot of times what people need. So that's what we do.
Beautiful. Yeah, you've got me pumped up right now as well. On get out there, join you all sometime.
Well, absolutely. We'd love to have you here and participate, staffing one of our events. And yeah, you do great. You fall right in to what we're doing. We do trainings. All our staff are CPR and first aid trained. Plus we do, the staff trainings. And a lot of that is, I mean, we have a whole handbook of our procedures and all that. Of course, it's just all really important to have this all develop this, and that's all part of that safety. It's part of really knowing what to say, what to do in different situations, even though it's all new always. Something we didn't really go over was the whole, it's we're not a religious organization, but we are a spiritual organization in that we have, we do believe in prayer. There's prayer there. We do have sweat lodge, and we actually do put our young men on a week-long camp. They do a solo. They do a Hamblecha vision quest. So they're out for one night in the woods by themselves. Of course, the staff are stationed close by. We do it once again, a very safe way. But so we that's part of what we do as well. It's a very spiritual experience, nature and spiritual experience for them, and they're connecting with their higher self, and being alone like that, and just in prayer and fasting. And that really helps. A lot of what we do, Jamie, this is the way I speak about it, is we release and then we fill them back up. There's a lot of we do grief and release work, anger work, and but it's not just in those different processes. There's a lot of release that happens, and then we fill back up. And I think that's kind of a process that we do, that kind of layers all week long. And so yeah, everything we do is kind of builds on the next thing, literally hour by hour. It's very intentional, and everything, like our things transition right from one thing to the next, and most of the time makes sense, I'll say. But I just wanted to throw that other piece in. And then another part, of course, this whole nature connection piece is that we are electronic free zone for the week. So there's no cell phones, no game, no texting, gaming, anything like that. We put all that away for the 1 week. And so often, parents and people say, because they know how addicted these young people are, and to this, because we all are, as adults as well. But it really doesn't become an issue. We keep them so busy, and we're doing so much interesting and fun stuff that, I don't hear anything about it. Now, I'm not saying they don't talk about it or something, but no, it's detox, man. It's detox. no electronics, and we actually, then we fill them up too, but eating very healthy. Most of the food we eat is organic. I'm vegetarian personally, but we serve healthy meats, chickens, fish, fresh vegetable, lots of kale and beets and nuts and great full 3 meals a day, and very healthy. And so that's what we're demonstrating, that to a healthy lifestyle. So it's that holistic way of living. Yeah, so I could go on, that, just what I feel like is important to create this type of environment. And they see successful men, not that they have it totally together, but men that have successful relationships in their life. And we exemplify, we model how we relate to each other, the staff. We don't all have to just like agree on every little thing. And we're all can be very different even, but show how we can be there together in community, and show how you can have successful relationships and model that for them as well. How we work together, that team building, teamwork. So see, all this is because they're always watching, even when they're not around. People and young people are always watching. So we always want to be really modeling that, and showing, how we would want, be the example, be the change that we want to be, like our teacher Gandhi spoke of. So
Well
Jamie,
said.
I could carry on a lot. This is something I'm tremendously passionate about. The passion doesn't waver. The need for this type of these types of programs is so great. That's why I support through any way I can, support you, support the Kingmakers, and people that want to create these types of experiences, whether it's a day or weekend, a week long, whatever it is. I'm all about this, and I'm open to support anybody that's interested in staffing, being part of it, or creating an event in your community. And don't think that you can't do that. Just have the passion, and the the fortitude to do it, and put the right people together to do this, and you can do it. I
Thank
encourage
you,
you.
Hawkeye. Yeah, thank you very much. As you're describing this too, I'm thinking this is something that sounds like we all could benefit from, but especially the young men that we're speaking about today too. And I know you mentioned Kingmakers, and then Mountain Wisdom Camp has, of course, been talked about. So if you have a couple more minutes, maybe we just mention who might Kingmakers be for. If they're, uh,
Sure.
a man who's working on getting this started, or already in this work, a teacher, somebody like that. I want to share a little bit about Kingmakers, and then also how people can find Mountain Wisdom Camp, what region you guys serve, anything else you want to share.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking about that. Yes, the Kingmakers is something that we started probably 16 years ago now. Brad Leslie, myself, a few other men. And that's made up of men around North America. I say that because United States and Canada, and where we're there every 2 weeks. We have been for all these years on. Now we're on Zoom on a Wednesday night for an hour Eastern time, 9 o'clock, and where we support each other, leaders of these types of events. It could be mentoring in schools. It could be initiation events like we're talking about tonight. Day programs, any kind of mentoring, we support that because of the importance of it. So we're supporting each other, and then we're supporting other events as well, and people that are wanting to get started in this field, in this area. And we support that. And we do some of the Kingmakers go and help lead the different events around North America. So we do some of that. It's cross-pollination, so to speak, and it's really supporting each other. And we learn and share information from what's working, what's really working well to reach the young men. And so yeah, we share a lot of information in that way, and it's just, hey, we're still doing it all these years, and it's working really great. I did not have this when I first started. I didn't know anybody else doing this on the planet when I first started this. I just started completely, totally cold with really nothing but desire and passion and a feeling of a need that this would be needed in our society. So I wanted to also share, so our website, Mountain Wisdom Inc. is, so mountainwisdominc.org is the website. And we have Mountain Wisdom Camps is our Facebook. So you can find us really easy. We're posting 3-4 times a week. So follow us. And it's not only just like about our camps, but at different kind of teenage important things, somewhat related subjects is what we post. So there's a lot of good information comes across our Facebook feed, Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, so we're open. So I'm all about anybody that has the desire and the passion for this type of work, and I encourage it. And sometimes you might have to stretch past your comfort zone a little bit, because sometimes men think, oh, I don't have this in me, or that kind of thing. No, everybody's got it in you. You might have to overcome some, lack of, something you think, you make up in your head about yourself, that you're not good enough, or you don't have what it takes, or you don't have enough skills, or, I'm not a good enough camper, or, whatever, I don't know survival skills, or, whatever, but you have your gifts, and that's what you will bring to a program like this. Or it's fine just to mentor the young man down the street, or say hi to him, or throw the football or the baseball with them. That's great. It doesn't have to be a whole rites of passage event. The needs, if you pay attention in your neighborhood or right in front of you, the need, it's going to appear some opportunity for mentoring. So pay attention and be awake to that, and the opportunity will arise, I promise. And if you want to do more than that, then, we're here. Like I said, go to my website. Jamie, I'm sure you can give the Kingmaker website contact information and be part of our transmission there. But yeah, please, I'm Hawkeye J. You can find me on my personal Facebook, and Jay Zipperman, and then of course my Mountain Wisdom Inc. Mountain Wisdom Camps Facebook as well.
Wonderful.
I really enjoyed this, Jamie. This was great to speak with you about this, and I could just carry on. But I think we've hit a lot of important parts of it, and yeah, if anybody's interested to hear more, certainly contact us. Contact Jamie. Could talk to, and I'm open all the time to speak with people about these subjects. So please contact us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hawkeye. That was great. I will include the links. I'll put them wherever I post this, so they're included there. People can get a hold of you or the Mountain Wisdom and Kingmakers. And this is what this is for, to try to create more on-ramps and connection points for people who are out there getting into this work or have been doing it for a while, have a young man, a young son. So I'll post that there, and thank you for your.
Absolutely. We're here in North Georgia, and we have a beautiful, incredible private property, 448 acres of land, the mountains of North Georgia, pristine lakes, the creeks, the forest, animals. So yeah, beautiful. So anybody, I mean, we have them come from really all over the country, but mostly Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. So that's our kind of regional area we're in. So certainly anybody in this general region, welcome to come in. A lot, do come from North Carolina, Georgia mostly, and so on. So anyway, I just wanted to get that clear. But yes, thank you, Jamie. We'll be speaking again soon. I'll see you on the Kingmakers.
Yeah, I'll see you there about a week and a half or so.
Excellent.
And thanks again for just the service to community here, and really enjoyed this call tonight. And perhaps we can do another one again sometime
Absolutely.
out in the future.
Yeah, we could dive into some other parts and subjects of all this. Yeah, there's definitely breakdowns of like, nature deficit disorder, where, so, we could do more on different parts. This was a broad kind of overview.
Right.
And we could do some specifics even.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more deep dives to what's relevant to the times here. Great.
Thank you, man.
All righty. Thank you.